Hey you guys, and welcome back to a new week of What's for Dinner. I'm really excited about these meals because they're all kind of like summer worthy, I guess you could say. They're all meals to pretty much beat the heat. I don't know about where you guys live, but here in Utah it has been so hot recently, so I've kind of been looking for things to, you know, stay cool and not heat up my house so my air conditioning bill is not like crazy amounts of money. But if you are new here, we are moving this week, so my next What's for Dinner video is going to be kind of like extra special just because it's going to be in a new house in a new town, and I'm just excited to cook meals in there and film in a new kitchen. But anyways, if you are new here, I'd love to have you over at my channel, so go ahead and subscribe down below the video. But let's get cooking some What's for Dinner. To get us started off this week, I just made some honey garlic chicken over some white rice and green beans. So of course we're going to start on the white rice first. So to my Instant Pot, I just added about 1.5 cups of white rice along with 1.5 cups of water and then a tablespoon of avocado oil. You could of course use any type of oil you guys like. I just stirred it together, added a little bit of salt and pepper, and then I just pressed the rice button. I've been really liking to use the rice button for my rice recently. I just think it comes out perfect every time. Moving over to our chicken, I just have about 1 pound of some chicken breast right here, and I decided to cube it up. You definitely don't have to cube your chicken. You could leave it as chicken breast for this recipe, but I just wanted cubed chicken on that night. And then of course you guys see my super adorable purple gloves. I decided to wear gloves on this night to chop my chicken. I just added that cubed chicken into this little bowl right here, and now I'm adding in about 2 tablespoons of some all-purpose flour, and I'm just stirring that all together to coat the chicken evenly. Moving over to my saucepan that I have some oil in. It's already been warmed up. I just added the chicken and I started to cook it. Of course, I only flipped it once. If you ever do coat your chicken like that, you really only want to try to flip it once while cooking, just because it is easier on the coating and it tastes better in the end. Now that my chicken is done cooking, I just added in a little bit more oil, and then I added in my 3 garlic cloves, and I just stirred that together and let them get nice and fragrant. Now that our garlic is fragrant, I'm just adding in our 3rd cup of honey along with our 1.5 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar, or you could also just use some white vinegar or other types of vinegar. And then I'm just going to be adding in our 1 tablespoon of soy sauce. This recipe called for less sodium soy sauce, but that's not what I had on hand. I just used the normal soy sauce. Then I just stirred this together and let that sauce get nice and thick. Here is the chicken all plated up. I just sprinkled some sesame seeds on top. This was such a good meal. I really do recommend it. It definitely was not too sweet at all. It kind of tasted like an Asian restaurant. I really recommend this one. For this night's dinner, we decided to go very simple, so I just did some grilled salmon, broccoli, and some suddenly salad. So to get started on my salmon, I am just using 2 salmon fillets, and then I just always sprinkle it with this Lawry's garlic salt. I love this garlic salt by Lawry's. If you haven't tried it yet, I really do recommend it. I think it tastes a lot better than normal garlic salt, if that makes any sense. And then I'm sprinkling on some Italian dressing, and I just let that marinate for about 20 minutes. I'm no grill master, so I didn't really show you guys me grilling up the salmon, but I just put it on the grill. I just served it alongside of a steamable bag of some broccoli and then some suddenly salad. This one is actually a subscriber suggestion meal, so we just made some baked chicken taquitos. I kind of made baked chicken chimichangas, to be completely honest, but I'll explain it in a minute. So I'm just starting on my chicken. I just added 2 chicken breasts to my Instant Pot along with some water and some salt and pepper. You pretty much just want some shredded chicken, however you choose to do so. I know I've told you guys this before, but all of these recipes and instructions are linked down below in my description box. And if you ever have trouble finding them, just let me know. But let's start on the ingredients. So after we shredded up that chicken, I just added about 3 ounces of softened cream cheese to that mixture, along with about 1/4 cup of salsa. And then I added in 1 chopped up white onion, and then about 1/4 cup of some cheese. And then for our seasonings, I just added a 1/2 teaspoon of cumin, and then about 1 teaspoon of chili powder, a 1/2 teaspoon of onion powder, 1/4 teaspoon of some garlic powder, and then I just squeezed in 1 lime. After I was through mixing everything together in my bowl, I just pulled out my cookie sheet, lined it with some parchment paper, and then brushed a little bit of oil on it. This is the part where I actually used large tortillas, these are like burrito style large tortillas, instead of small tortillas. So if you use the small tortillas, of course you could make more of this mixture and you can make them into kind of like taquitos like the recipe said. I didn't have any of the small tortillas, so that's why I just used the 2 large ones, and they turned out kind of like chimichangas. They were still so amazing. I just plopped them into the oven and let those tortillas get nice and crispy. Here is my big chimichanga all plated up. I don't even have to tell you guys, but this one was so good. I just served it alongside of some guacamole, sour cream, and salsa. This one was a hit for my family. For this night's dinner, I just made some copycat and InNOut burgers. I did show this in my copycat video this past week on Wednesday. So if you did happen to miss that video, I will have that one linked down below in my description box. But this recipe was so good. And if you know what InNOut burger is, you probably want to give this one a shot, just because if you like InNOut as much as me, I think you'll love it. For this meal, I just made some zucchini and chicken grilled skewers. So to begin, I just have about 1 pound of chicken right here. It's just 1 chicken breast. And I'm just chopping that up into small pieces just so it would fit onto a skewer. And then over here, I have 1 zucchini, and I'm just chopping that up into small pieces as well. This meal was actually just for my daughter and myself. I had already packed something for my husband. He was going to be home from work super late on that night, so I didn't even want to, make him anything. So anyways, I just put everything onto these 2 skewers just like this. To season this up, I did not go very fancy. I just used this McCormick Smokehouse maple seasoning. I really do like this seasoning. I get it from my Smith's grocery store, or you could get it from Kroger's. I'm sure Walmart also has it. And then I'm also just using this roasted garlic and herb seasoning. These are just both dry seasonings, and I really do love them both equally. But anyways, now here is just a really rare scene of me grilling. I never show you guys me grilling just because, like I said before, I am no grill master, but I just got some aluminum foil and then just brushed some oil on that and then put each of these skewers on top of that. Here are these bad boys off of the grill. I was pretty proud of myself because typically my husband is the griller of the family, but I thought these were super delicious. For this night's dinner, I just made some pork chop casserole. It does look funny, but you gotta trust me on this one. This one's a yummy one. So into my pan, we're gonna start by browning our pork chops. So I just added a little bit of oil and let that get super hot. I'm just adding my 4 pork chops in. These are super thin pork chops. I kind of wish they were thicker for this recipe, but I just had to use what I had on hand. After these were just browned, not totally cooked through, I just removed them and put them on a separate plate. And now moving over here, I just have a large bowl. I'm just adding this can of cream of celery. The recipe called for a can of cream of mushroom. I just didn't have that on hand. And then next, I'm just adding my 1/2 cup of some sour cream along with my 2/3 cup of milk. To season it, of course, you could add more seasonings, but I'm just adding in 1/4 teaspoon of ground black pepper and then 1/2 teaspoon of some salt, and then I'm just going to give this a really good whisking. Now that everything is well combined, I just added in about 1/2 cup of some sharp cheddar cheese, along with about 3 ounces of French fried onions. For our hash browns, you need about 16 ounces of hash browns. I chose to use this little dehydrated box of hash browns that I just put 2 cups of hot water in. I get it at Costco. I really like it. Anyways, I just stirred all of this together to combine. Over to my 9x13 baking dish. You're going to want to grease that thing. I just poured my casserole mixture in there, and then I just tried to distribute it as even as possible. And then on top of that casserole layer, I just put our pork chops on as even as possible again. And then on top of that, I just put a big layer of some aluminum foil on that tightly. And then I just tossed it into the oven on 350 for about 40 minutes. Here we are about 40 minutes later. I just took that aluminum foil off and then I put some sharp cheddar cheese on top. You could really use any type of cheese you guys prefer for this recipe. I even think pepper jack cheese would be good on this. And then I put the remainder 3 ounces of our French fried onions on, and then I just tossed it back into the oven until that cheese got nice and ooey and gooey. Here this is out of the oven. This turned out so good. It had amazing flavor. I really did love this. My only complaint was, of course, I dried out those darn pork chops. I always seem to dry out my pork chops for some reason. Maybe I need to be buying thicker pork chops, but anyhow, I just served it alongside of a side salad. For this night's dinner, we made some Caprese chicken. To get started, I have 2 large chicken breasts that I just sliced thinly in half, and then I'm just seasoning it with a little bit of onion powder, garlic powder, and some Italian seasoning. Over to my saucepan, I just poured in about a tablespoon of some avocado oil. This recipe said to cook these on the barbecue grill. I just didn't feel like cooking these on the barbecue grill just because in Utah this past week it was so hot and I thought I already grilled enough that week, so onto, my saucepan it is. But I just seasoned the opposite side with the same seasoning that I used before, and then I just flipped these halfway through. Moving over to my cutting board, I have some of this fresh mozzarella cheese that is already pre-sliced. You really do want to use the fresh mozzarella cheese for this recipe. It really does make all the difference and it tastes so good. And then I'm just chopping up some cherry tomatoes over here. You could use any type of tomatoes you guys have. And then of course I'm also chopping up some fresh basil. And then onto that chicken, once it was through cooking, I just added that mozzarella cheese right on top, along with our cherry tomatoes, and then on top of that I added the basil. Then I just put my lid on this and I just let this cook on low for about 2 to 3 minutes just to start to melt that mozzarella. To me, this is what makes this recipe outstanding. So once this chicken was all plated up, I just poured some of this balsamic glaze on top and this came out phenomenal. This was one of my favorite meals out of this entire week. This was just so fresh and flavorful for the summertime. For this night's dinner, we just made some loaded taco salad. So to begin, I just have about a pound of some lean ground beef right here. I'm just going to be cooking it up. I do always like to sprinkle just a tad bit of some taco seasoning in there while it is cooking. I think it adds to the flavor. Anyways, once it is through cooking, I drained the grease and then I added about 1.5 teaspoons more taco seasoning and then some water. I just stirred that together, and then I always add my beans in with my taco meat once the taco meat is done cooking, and I always let it simmer for about 10 to 15 minutes. I just think it turns out great like that. For our vegetables, I just used whatever was left in our fridge. So I just used a purple onion. I used 2 avocados, cherry tomatoes, and then some green onions. I really do like taco salads because you could kind of throw in whatever is in your fridge, you know, whatever is going bad, that type of thing. They're always delicious no matter what you use. Here is my taco salad mainly complete. This turns out so good every single time. I just served it alongside of some of this homemade ranch. I think making big salads like this always pairs great with homemade ranch, so I always like to do that. But this was such a good summer meal because it kind of like wasn't hot at all. It didn't heat up my house, and this was a perfect moving, packing day meal. And that is a wrap of this week's What's for Dinner. I hope you guys all enjoyed it and got plenty of meal inspiration. Like I said before, we are moving, so next week is going to be a new kitchen, and I'm just like so excited about that. But I'd love to have you over at my channel, so go ahead and subscribe down below the video. But I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye for now.